Some people think being broke is a bank problem. I've learned it's usually a pattern problem. Money is not just something you have. Money is something you handle. And how you handle it comes from how you think. If you keep getting the same results year after year, you don't have a bad year. You have a bad routine. And routines don't change by hope. They change by decision. Most people think staying broke starts in the bank account, but the pattern usually starts in the mind. Long before money becomes a problem, thinking becomes a habit, and habits quietly become a lifestyle. A person can earn more and still stay broke if they keep repeating the same inner routine. Excuse first, comfort second, and short-term relief as the final decision maker. That's the psychology behind it. It's not that someone wakes up and chooses failure. They simply choose what feels easiest today, again and again, until today becomes their whole future. The first part of the mental routine is the excuse. Excuses are attractive because they sound reasonable. They feel like protection from guilt. They say, I'll start when things calm down. I'm too busy right now. I didn't grow up with money. The economy is bad. People like me don't get ahead. Some of these statements may contain a piece of truth, but the danger is what happens next. The mind uses that truth as permission to stop taking responsibility. When responsibility leaves, progress leaves with it, then comes comfort. Comfort isn't always sitting on a couch. Comfort is anything that removes pressure from the moment. Comfort can be avoiding a hard conversation about spending. Comfort can be not checking your account because it makes you anxious. Comfort can be telling yourself you deserve a reward because life is stressful. Comfort can be delaying a skill you need because learning feels uncomfortable. Comfort is the brain choosing relief instead of results. The problem with comfort is it is never free. It always charges interest, and the interest is your future options after excuse, and comfort comes short-term thinking. Short-term thinking is when your brain asks, what will make me feel better right now? Not what will make me better overall. In that state, you'll trade long-term wealth for a short-term mood. You'll buy the feeling of success instead of building the skills that create it. You'll scroll for relief instead of studying for an hour. You'll lead up the evening with distraction and then call it rest, even though you're still tired because you didn't actually recover. You just escaped. Short-term thinking always wins in the moment, but it always loses in the results. What makes this pattern so powerful is that it repeats quietly. Nothing dramatic happens. There's no big explosion. It's small leaks, small impulse buys, small wasted hours, small promises broken, small decisions to delay. And every time you repeat the loop, you train your brain. You teach it that discomfort is dangerous and must be avoided. You teach it that your word to yourself is negotiable. You teach it that progress can wait. Over time, your identity starts forming around that loop. You don't just do broke behaviors. You start seeing yourself as the kind of person who always struggles, and that belief becomes a filter that controls what you notice and what you attempt. This is why some people get a raise and still feel stuck. The mind kept the same routine, so the money simply flows through the same holes. The issue is the pattern of thinking, excuse, comfort, short-term relief. If you want different financial results, you must interrupt the mental routine first, because the account follows the mind, and the mind follows the standards you live by. Your habits are spending your future long before your wallet ever gets the chance to show it. That's what makes this so serious. A lot of people believe money problems are mainly about income, but income is only one part of the equation. What you repeatedly do with your time, attention, and impulses decides what you repeatedly do with your money. And when the habits are weak, even good money can't save you because the lifestyle will expand to match the income and the excuses will expand to match the lifestyle. One habit that keeps people financially trapped is the habit of reacting instead of directing. When you react, your day runs you, your phone runs you, your mood runs you, you spend when you feel stressed, you skip learning when you feel tired, you avoid planning when you feel overwhelmed. The decision isn't being made by your goals. It's being made by your emotions. Emotions are useful signals, but they are terrible managers. If your mood is your manager, your results will always be unstable because moods change and unstable leadership creates unstable outcomes. Another habit is avoidance, and avoidance has many costumes. It can look like not looking at your bank balance because it makes you anxious. It can look like not tracking spending because you don't want to feel restricted. It can look like not budgeting because you want to stay free. But freedom without direction becomes chaos. Avoidance also shows up in skill building. Instead of learning what would increase your value, people stay busy with low-value tasks, then wonder why the world doesn't pay them more. They avoid the discomfort of being a beginner, so they stay permanently average. Avoidance is expensive because the bill arrives later, and later it costs more. Then there's impulsivity, one of the most common habits that steals tomorrow. Impulsivity is the brain chasing quick reward. It's the little purchase that doesn't feel big. It's the subscription you forget about. It's eating out because it's easier. It's buying something to feel better after a rough day. None of these choices feels like it will change your life. That's the trick. Big outcomes are often built from small repeated choices. One impulse isn't the problem. A pattern of impulse is the problem. The pattern becomes a tax on your future, and tied to impulsivity is the habit of latter thinking. Later thinking is when you treat tomorrow like a magical place where you suddenly become disciplined. Tomorrow, you'll save tomorrow. You'll stop wasting time. Tomorrow, you'll start learning. Tomorrow, you'll fix the mess. But tomorrow doesn't change you. What changes you is what you do today. Because today is the only place character can be built. Later thinking is comforting because it allows you to feel responsible without being responsible. It gives you the emotion of intention without the weight of execution. These habits don't just affect money directly. They create a personal identity that shapes everything else. If you repeatedly avoid discomfort, you begin to see yourself as someone who can't handle discomfort. If you repeatedly give in to impulses, you begin to see yourself as someone who can't control impulses. If you repeatedly postpone, you begin to see yourself as someone who never finishes. And once that identity forms, your brain protects it. You start choosing actions that match your self-image, even when you say you want something different. That's why the fight is not just with your bank balance. The fight is with the daily behaviors that drain your future before it arrives. Time wasted is money lost, because time is what you trade for value. Attention wasted is money lost, because attention is what you use to learn and improve. Discipline wasted is money lost, because discipline is what results. If you want to change your financial direction, you don't start by wishing for a bigger paycheck. You start by tightening the habits that decide what happens to every paycheck that comes after it. The pattern breaks when you change identity and standards. because your life will rarely rise above what you tolerate. Most people try to change money first, but money is usually a result, not a root. The root is the person who earns, keeps, invests, and grows it. If the person stays the same, the money can come and go like water through open hands. That's why the real shift is not a trick, not a secret, not a sudden lucky break. It's a decision to become someone new on purpose, then proving it to yourself through small daily actions. Identity is simply the story you repeat about who you are. When someone says, "I'm just not disciplined," that is not a fact. It's a practice. They have practiced that belief until it feels true. When someone says, "I'm bad with money," that is not destiny. It is an identity they keep feeding. The way you change identity is not by arguing with yourself in the mirror. You change it by stacking evidence. You do a small discipline thing today, then another tomorrow, then another, and the brain starts updating the story. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who can delay gratification, someone who can learn, someone who can manage standards of the invisible rules you live by. A low standard makes poor choices feel normal. A high standard makes poor choices feel expensive. If your standard is, "I usually run out of money," then running out becomes expected and strangely comfortable. If your standard is, "I pay myself first," then spending comes after saving, not before. If your standard is, "I don't buy things to fix feelings," then emotional spending loses its power. Raising standards doesn't mean becoming harsh or miserable. It means deciding what you will and will not accept from yourself, because self-respect is built through boundaries, and boundaries are built through standards. To raise your standard, you must start asking better questions, because questions shape focus, and focus shapes behavior. Instead of asking, "Why am I always struggling?" ask, "What am I repeating that creates struggle?" Instead of asking, "How do I get motivated?" ask, "What will I do even without motivation?" Instead of asking, "How do I make more money?" ask, "How do I become more valuable?" Value is what the marketplace pays for. When you become more valuable, money has a reason to find you when you become more valuable. Then comes daily discipline, because discipline is the bridge between a new identity and new results. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is training. You train your finances the way you train your body, a little each day, consistently. You track what you spend, not because you are afraid, but because you are in charge. You set a simple plan for where money goes because direction beats drift. You create a small automatic saving habit because automation removes the need for daily willpower. You put learning on the calendar because what gets scheduled gets done. You choose one skill that increases your earning power and you work it until it pays you back. Consistency is the quiet power that breaks the old pattern. People fail because they try to change everything at once and then collapse. The better strategy is smaller, steadier, and stubborn. One small promise kept daily is more powerful than one big promise kept once. When you keep promises to yourself, your confidence grows. And confidence is not a loud emotion. It is the calm feeling that you can rely on you. That reliability becomes a standard. The standard becomes a lifestyle. The lifestyle produces the results. If you want to break the broke pattern, stop trying to win one big day and start building a person who wins most days. Because most days is where your future lies.